pictures. Ishmael's probably remember the name very well. I called up many times that name, Beishaga. A lot of memories. That time, there was no Bangladesh meeting except for Bentzion, Westfield. Without Beishaga. My first station wagon I bought from him. We shared mail together, 34-hour drive, 34,000 road. Many other things. When one asked me to say some difference in color, share a few minutes that we'll have together to really bring out, but we try to bring out two Nikudas for color focus. Playing the Nifter. It's a pain in the burger. It's a last Kusses and the Shabbat. And perhaps also some different service. The Hertzl, the Klein was Nifter, only if the Pashas Hayisar. I remember talking that morning to Hertzl and to Avrohom. And after the Surah came, I shared with him a word from Yaakov in Pashas Hayisar, which perhaps should be repeated for those who might not have heard it, who might be negated. And that pasuk also brought me to the thought of the first Nikud that I'd like to bring out of the verse. You Hayisar, Meir Shon, Esim Shon, Shem Shon, Shnei Hayisar. Rashi stellt sich on why I have to repeat Shnei Hayisar. So Rashi, Kul and Shav on the table. I tell them all Kul and Shav on the table, which we'll speak about soon. But Rabbi Yaakov, the Yitzchok Baruch Shochem, said once on this pasuk that many times people start questioning themselves. If I should have done this, if I would have done that, perhaps we should have gone here, perhaps we should have gone there. But Rabbi Yaakov is up to that choice. The Meir over here, as we all know, brings down that the Sultan came and told Sarah, so people, and what was the Sultan's kavanah? The Sultan's kavanah was to put a tukul onto the Ma'aser HaKedah. People should say, oh, it wasn't a good thing. Look what happened, Sarah was lifted from that. But the Yaakov is on next Shnei Chaye Saba. Those in the Bentzion from Saba. That's why the pasuk is repeating it. The Pam, the one said this over. When his mother was lifted, she was a centurion. And that night he wasn't home. And he started questioning himself. I would have been home. Perhaps. And then he reminded himself this words from Yaakov, Shnei Chaye Saba. As he looked at the gesagt. We can sich ma'avdim sein, we can shim'acha sein. There's a certain time. So Meir, this is something which we have to share with the mishpacha. Start thinking those last few days, have we chapped? Should we realize? Should we have done? Should we have this, that? You start questioning yourself, and the feelings start coming in. Then chas v'sholom. Das sind Shnei Chayev. Das sind die Jons, sein Leben. Was er Leben das gewählt. Und Meir bedarf gar nicht trachten, not to think at all what could have, what should have, what should I have done. On these words of Kul and Shav on the table, what's the passion? What says Kul and Shav on the table? Sarah didn't have children to 90 years. She was with Meir, Melech, Hagar, Ishmael. What's Kul and Shav on the table? So a lot of Mefarshim say that the Bir HaDvarim is that no matter what the matzah was the Teufel. Kol mad over the Parashbohu, the top of it. So when I was thinking what I should bring out, I was thinking to speak about this because I shared many discussions with him. He went through many trials and tribulations as well. And one of the nakudas which came across to me was how he was always searching with Dovi. There were some times it was very difficult, but he was always searching. So I was questioning myself if I should speak about that night or not. So on Shabbos, I saw a vote wrote down from Moshe Shloshim on the paper which is given out at the shuls on Shabbos. When he brings out this vote again, I said, I know what I'm supposed to say, but over here he brings it out even further. On the passing, Vayem Yisrael, Lom HaReisim Li'Lahavik L'Ish Ha'oid L'Chem Och. Sheik Medish, Mavus the Medish, Me'oibam Lo'yom Yaakov Avinu Dovi Shabbaton. Yaakov Avinu never said anything which was incorrect. Elya, except for over here. Omar Kodesh Baruch Hu, Ani Oisik Lahamlik Es Bono Es Benoy the Mitzrayim Hu Oina Meir Lom HaReisim. So to Sternbach, Divrei HaMedrash Kan Hein Musir Haskell Niflo L'Chol Ever. Gewalt in Musir Haskell. Eichlis Yaches Litzores HaMisratres Rachmon L'Slam Olam Hazeh. Begeht sagt, doch hat Sorge. Schwer. Shall Yaakov Avinu dog Ma'oid Mitzrayim from everything that was happening in Mitzrayim? Yosef Einano. Shimon is not here now. They want to bring down Bentzion. What's inside them? He had all the right in the world to question and have so what's they done rubbish? Aber HaKadosh Baruch Hu yodes emes she'ein kan lo litztoy el l'smoyach. Zehu musar haskel avoreinu. This is a tremendous musar haskel for us. Shall we call on them oyim ba'olim and we say the words which are brought here in the Shloshim's paper, and you understand why it's thought, this is what the words I should tackle say. Pushim shining, many difficulties. Parnosa, I'm sure the family remembers. Kufli went through sharing Parnosa. I remember, so I'm sure the family does. B'tzad Lubonim, Sarmisi Shalech Makroizim Rachmon Litzlan. V'anachnu kan bo'im hazeh mitztarim, and rightfully so. Ve'inenu yoidim sheb'shemayim tzedek v'yoidim shakol teivos. We forget. HaKadosh Baruch Hu kol ma'ad over HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'tavo. It's not the shame. 21 years ago today, I went through a tremendous time. It took a long time. I went learning Shabbat talking to get through it. But this is what we shared with the family. Kol ma'ad over HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'tavo. Then hayinu yoidim b'shemayim kama hakol tevisenu loyidim ustarpa. But we're not such madrega, perhaps. But kol zehu rotzin haboy yizbo shemoy she'odam ba'olam hazeh yireh ba'ofen tivi rak tzad echad shalom hadeya ma'she'niru loy kara. Tafkid hu l'shtakel gam al tzad hashem. But that is what the Hertzl tried to do. This one side of the coin. And that side of the coin is tremendous side. Parnosa, Tzadi Kubonim, losing an infant, v'chulu. And through many times during those kufas, I happened to speak to him. And I saw how he was, I still remember how he was searching to be able to see the Tzad HaToiv. V'dos ha'limud fa'im mishpacha, tzigedenti. We should never have tzoris. We should never be tzoris. But this is not from this year, as Kol Man over the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on top of it. The second thing that I wanted to mention was ein Spus for him. This grade is there's a Kitzur Shulchan it brings at the end of Hilchos Kaddish. Yesh lo v'odim l'tzavis es bonav l'haz be'ez mitzvah. Every parent should tell the child what they want in Matzvah. It's more than the Kaddish. They can't say Kaddish. So I want to share with you something which I saw by him, which I think he would have wanted to share with you. There's a pasuk in Keller, the fourth pasuk in Keller. Hoylech al-Dorim, a soygen al-Tzafar, soygen, hoylech al-Ruach, al-Si Roisef, Shav al-Ruach. The Heilige of his Chaim stops at that. What's great about that pasuk position? What's this pasuk? Making so many terms. Hoylech al-Dorim, soygen al-Tzafar, soygen, al-Si Roisef, hoylech al-Ruach, al-Si Roisef, Shav al-Ruach. What's Tutzah? It's up the Heilige of his Chaim. A person's and what I'm saying now, this was Reb Hertzl's mahalach. And this is perhaps a message that he would want given over, because this is what I saw from him. Hoylech al-Dorim, haroitza sheyachtov yad. Torah is bedor. Meir is bedor. Seremes is Torah. As Torah is the hoylech al-Dorim. The son is never going to come to you and tell you, nah, forget about Torah. Tzafar, Shulchan, Ashiras, Yashmis. He knows you're never going to buy it. But and quote this up, turn a little, one step, take one step that way. So up the Haley the Pasuk, if you take one step that way, it's like the trajectory of a rocket ship. It goes off by the slightest lure, something or other. It's going to end up on a different planet. It's going to keep on turning. The whole ruach of the Hoylech al-Dorim is going to become mortal. The Alsi voices of the Heilige time. And because of that one step, that soifim that started, Shav Haruch, you're going to have to come back to return and to insanity. This is something which I saw by him. Constantly want to make sure he's Hoylech al-Dorim. Constantly making sure he's and the children will be Hoylech al-Dorim. And discussing that. Well, this is perhaps a legacy which should go on with him. For the Mishpach, to be a Hoylech al-Dorim and watch about that side of itself. The Shloshim was the Hanukkah. Shabbos Hanukkah came out very unusually this year, Parshas Vayeshev. Nevertheless, the Haftarah of Hanukkah is the same, whichever Parsha comes out. And in that Haftarah, we have the famous pasuk, Nosati l'chol mahalchem eharim l'ba'el. The Heilige Sam Sefer Taishet himself is going on Karanifta. We all know the famous Shloshim Avrohom Karadav. A child, this laughed after child can be children, grandchildren, Talmidim, and Talmidim can be laughed after from the classroom. And Moshe used to always say over Moshe Feinstein, Lulma, we say in the Birchas Kishma, Lulma Ulalamed. So, okay, you're Rebbe, so you're a Lamed. How does everybody say that? So the Moshe name, Yeder Mensch from Voser Tut is Amalamed. Every person, how he acts, what he does, he's a Malamed. When he was a Malamed, his Freilichkeit, no matter what, there were times when he was tired, it was hard for him. But he tried through Nigur to make sure that he could break through with that. Oid Kosh, how's the Hashem Kilei Sakos? How many times I remember, those who were in Beishad will remember that he would come into a Shalashudis, when he'd sit down next to Mendelus and Shifts, and Mendelus is Yotzak this week also, and he would teach us a good Indian. He would teach it to us. And he was constantly striving through Nigun. So we're all students of his, so to speak. So the Chassam Sofer says, normally a person is nifter, he's an oinid, a kedush game fighter. Aber bro, karadavu. The children, Talmidim Hariyim Kibonim, they carry him. So the Gemara is up to Rabbi Yechon Mazaki goes up. There was crying before his patira yesterday morning, crying. Where you'll be taken. Because bro karadavu, Talmidim bro karadavu. So I want to just end with that, with a vote from a footnote. And this famous Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Alpha Pish and Miras and Kaddish, but Tfilas Magilas for always, even though saying Kaddish and davening for the Amid helps the parent very much. Mikol Mokem Ein Elo Ha'ikah, that's not the main thing. Follow in his oirich mishor. That's what it says in Zohar Kodesh. He goes into Ben Chavis Avos, Lavdaka B'Chayav, like this. It says the Avagav the Nis is Chayav B'Yoker Yisayim. He's even more mechuyev. How you mechabed him? But the way you act. The im havu bro oznu ba'irach takola. If the child goes in the not proper way, v'adei mevazalav. That's going to be a bezoya. V'adei overload kolona. The ihu bro olav ba'irach mishor. But he goes the proper way. The tikkun of them, and he does with his masakin is avodah. V'adei oikel avuyei oikelei b'hayam oikelei b'hu. It's a shivas him in this world. The children, people say, "Oh, that's his son, that's his grandchild, that's his relative. Look how they're following his ways. It's around the code for him." So I want to end with this footnote. Famous words from a footnote on Broad Paradigm. He said as follows: when the baby is born, the head is quite disproportionate from the rest of the body. The head is quite enlarged in comparison to the rest of the torso. The fislach, the pulkalach, are quite small. When you look at a grown person, the feet comprise half of the torso of the body. The way he used to say it, hopefully the head is not so out of proportion. So, there comes a time as the kop vats the head is not growing anymore on its own. That doesn't mean that the head can't keep on going higher. The feet wachsen, as the feet grow, the kop geht hecher and hecher. Bro, karadafu. Does the pshat bro karadafu. We have over here children, grandchildren, and talmidim of learning from him how to serve Hashem. What's the proper way? How to deal with tzaros, how to deal with people, how to be the simcha, how to be the sameh of other people, how to read your life of a hoyle chaldorma, be careful about that same would suffer. And for that way, the children, grandchildren, and all of his talmidim who learn from him, from his ways of life, will continue, will be mezakes abba. The tat does the roish hamishpach, does the roish, and the roish get hecher and hecher. They have to help him that through this meisen, so the neshamas will get hecher and hecher. They gesteht doch das Bochus, gives him a special Kiseh. They have to help him so solche sein, gleich zu wie es ein Mashiach und sei zusammen noch einmal im Heilen.
Before I start, just want to take care of some small business here. As you walked in, you saw a beautiful tape. What do I have in here? Yeah, a CD. I'm from the old-fashioned tape. A CD, and the people that put it together was Moshe and Dina. We just want to thank them very much. It's going to mean a lot to everybody, in the future of Mirchem, and something which we could give over to our children. On the same theme that Rabbi Greenfeld said, and he left already, so Grace Hashikayah for him to come. I was taking a look at halacha, exactly what tonight is supposed to be all about. So, when before a person is buried and they make the hespedim, the Gemara speaks about that the hespedim are very, very important. It's very crucial that the hespedim should be said be'emes, should be the truth. Because if not, that time, the nifter is by a din Torah, and that din Torah is being said, whatever the hespedim say, they're going to use it. If it's not emes, it's going to be used against them. By the time after the nifter is buried, l'chayra, the din Torah is over. It's machlokes achronim if you're allowed to go within the first year to the kever and be mispalo for yourselves, because there's still maybe a din Torah going on, but it's vice place that the hespedim of the din Torah was finished with already. The Gemara brings down, and the halacha brings down, that until a certain amount of days you're allowed to cry, and then comes the Yemei Avelis. But by a Talmud Chacham or someone who you're very close with and was very chashiv to the Welt, you're allowed to cry for 30 days. As they state in halacha. After the 30 days, what should we do for the nifter? So people say all over, chashve people, you hear from all over, that there's now an Indian to send peklach to Tati and to Zaidi. What's that send peklach? So we're going to go through a couple of things. The first thing the Gemara says is that when you say over a vart from the nifter, from Tati and from Zaidi, so his mouth, whatever it means, his mouth moves in the kever. The Mefarshim explain that it's a major mila for the nifter to say over a vart from him, and he goes, like we're sending peklach, he goes higher and higher in madrega. So I have two things I want to say over from Tati. It was very, very famous. I didn't know the answer. I always knew the kasha. And then the Rivki knew the answer, and Uncle Arya knew the answer, Klar. And we, for states, Tati was very, very, very oisik. I remember for years and years in the Mayoni Shel Torah. I mean, always. So much so that when Baruch Hashem, my Maishi had Naftali Eretz Chaim, I told Mommy in Eretz Yisrael she wanted to give away some of the stuff. Can I please have my Mayoni Shel Torah? I'm sorry, Uncle Arya took it already. But it wasn't, I found out tonight, it wasn't Tati's original Mayoni Shel Torah. Taki belonged to Uncle Arya, and it was his bar mitzvah parsha from Rabbi Shulman. So yeah, it kumtem, okay. But this he gave to Zaidi when he went to Eretz Yisrael all the years ago, and Zaidi Taki has a double check on this. There's a famous Gemara in Psachim, which we all know. The Gemara in Psachim says, we say, V'esa l'goy gadol, Zeh shomer Elokei Avrohom, V'avrorechacha, V'zeh shomer Elokei Yitzchok, V'agad l'shemecha, the Gemara says, Zeh shomer Elokei Yaakov. So my other Shel Torah brings down, and who are we chaysim with? We're chaysim with Mogain Avrohom. Why are we chaysim with Kulam? No, Kulam we're not going to be chaysim with. We're only going to be chaysim with Avrohom. The shaila is why. So my other Shel Torah brings down a Tati say over this word all the time. It says on Shleishet Dvar Ma'olam Ma'imid, it says in Pirkei Avos, Ala Torah, Ala Avodah, Ala Gemilas Chasadim. And we know that Avram Avinu was Gemilas Chesed, and Torah and Avodah we know was Yitzchok. He gave himself as a carbon, and we know Torah was Yaakov Avinu. Ishtam Yoshev Olam. That was Yaakov Avinu. But Doris Achronis, so we're here, even though it sounds a little bit funny, we're here in Lakewood, Ir HaTorah, and the people who come from Yerushalayim who are listening to us today in Eretz Yisrael, they're also Orangutan Baruch Shem in the Ir HaTorah. But the Velt, when it comes to Torah, Nebuch is Falarin. Avodah, we don't have the Beis Hamikdash anymore. So Tati always said, what is left? What is left is a Gemilas Chesed from Avram Avinu. And he wants to say over what's going to bring the Geula. The Geula is going to be the Chesed that we do. It was Tati's word, he always said over. And Tati was so interested in being here when the Mashiach would come. He told my Maishi about the Bar Mitzvah. Mirjam, we'll see you tomorrow with the Mashiach together when they made the Bar Mitzvah last year. That was one word that Tati said. Another word, I was sitting in the base medrash today in the Westgate, the Vasikim Minyan, what we have over there, and Shlomi Mendelowitz from Montreal happens to be here in town. He hasn't seen his father in a long time. So they decided to take a chance, come from Montreal. They're going to have a major problem getting back to Montreal. They came last night to be with his children here in Lakewood. He says he's got to tell me a word from Tati. A year and a half ago, him and Shimon Mendelowitz were in Eretz Yisrael. And they said, we got to go see Hertzl. So they drive out to Neve Yaakov. I'm sure Mommy remembers this. And Tati says to them, I got to tell you a word from Shraga 5 Mendelovich. You should know that Tati lived with Shlagi Menlovich ad Yon Maisa. Until he died, he lived his Rebbe. He lived at Mamish and Kemer. So what was the word he said over? He said a Gavaldic word. It says in Shema, Yehavta l'recha kamaycha. You're supposed to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we know B'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'vedecha. Then I said, Hoyavim ha'el asher nechim tzavrim al levavecha. Fred Rishagi Menlovich. What do you mean al levavecha? It's bil levavecha, in your heart. We mean al levavecha. So he said that Tati jumped out of his seat and he says, I'll tell you a muscle. He puts up his hand, he says, let's say you have a glass of water and you pour the water over and over and it falls over. The Baruch Hu wants you to love him. That should go over the kais, go over. Not bil of it, not in your heart to be hidden, it should be over. These things that we see from Tati were things that were unbelievable. I remember as a bacher, when I came from St. Louis, my father was still in St. Louis, but they were chabura very, very close to each other. Tati and my father were mamish close. So I used to come over, to the house, Shabbos, Baruch Hashem. And it sounds interesting now, but the truth is, it's an emistic of feel that, I always had wow, if only I could be part of the Schechter family. Avrohom was the fun guy, and Uncle Arya was the serious guy that we actually learned together with. And it was like, wow, if I could get into this family, wow. And Baruch Hashem, it worked out. I hope it worked out. One thing Tati never did, this is amazing, and I really want to say these in Yonim that we all should work on if we could try to take a Kabbalah, even if for a very short period of time, but a Kabbalah that would be a major for the neshama that's sending Tekla, who's sending packages to Tati. He never ever complained about me. And let me tell you something, there's a lot of complaint about me, but he never ever complained to me. I told Uncle Avrohom by Shiva, at least not to my face. Avrohom said, no, not even behind your back, you never complain. That's a godless. That alone is a godless. So people should realize that. The story that we all know, and Reb Chaim Shloshim used to say, he's going to say over the Musar, and he can say over for weeks the same Musar. And they finally came over to him, and they said, Gunuk Shleim, with this Indian of that time, Lama game weiter. So he got up the next Sunday, and he says, you so know that if you tell me to go weiter, vice versa, you never heard it the first time. Because Musar, you're always supposed to hear a new thing. So I know we all heard this Maisa, but this is a thing that we all can take a Kabbalah on and send Tati a major package. We know the story that Tati used to travel from his house to Tervadas, where Shraga Menlovich, the way I understood it, used to give a nachshir from 9 to 9:30. Rabbi Mendel's, by the way, tried it in Shraga too. It didn't work out too much. And 5 after 9, he used to lock the door. That's the way I heard it. And Tati used to come, in those days, he used to come 2 minutes after 9, 3 minutes after 9, and he let them in, but he said, stop the shir until the guy sat down. Anyway, Yom finally, someone came over to Tati and says, the boss, wants to see you in the office now. So Tati's shaking, I'm shaking. And I heard this Maisa again. There was Maishi Wilhelm, who was also davening in my Basic Minyan. He came with me, told me that 3 years ago, he went with the Chabura guys to Hertzl Benas Manim. And they said that on the way down south, we got to go visit. There's an old Tervadas where Hertzl Schechter, we got to go visit him. And he jumped also out of the seat to tell him this Maisa that Rishlag Melvich says to him, Nu Hertzl Ben Kumsa, when are you coming on time already? So he goes, he's a scared, Mirz Hashem. And with Tati's whole kaiches, he got up and said the Maisa. So he said, Rav Shagel, the famous line, which is such an unbelievable insight. He says, name in Mirza Hertzl. From that day on, I never ever remember my shver being late, ever in his whole life. From that day on, he said he never came late in his life. This is something that we can really, make a Kabbalah. No, I mean, I don't want to ask you to raise a hand or anything, but okay, I'm just to come on time for Dovi, come 5 minutes earlier, or if you have to go to a shir, come 5 minutes early. I mean, that would really send Tati and Zaidi a gewaldige peklach. We know that when he davened, and there was kama times, there would be shragings to come daven Friday night for the Amid. Some people got nervous, but most people loved it. The mile of his davening was, even though we're not all about like tefillah, and we might not hear the niggin so well, but the mile that we saw from him, he put his whole koiches into the davening, into avodas Hashem. Let's say if a guy wants to take a Kabbalah and say, I'm going to say Oleinu l'shabeach, which is Nebuch, the last tefillah, and the Nebuch is the shtickl yosam of our tefillah, and we're going to stay with Kavanah because of Tati. Oleinu l'shabeach la'adoyin hakol, and we're good for 30 days. How much more? Not more than 30 days. We don't want Chashem to go overboard. 30 days for Tati, and it'd be an unbelievable schus to the schus of his Kavanah and his koiches that he put into all the davening. He used to tell us we went a couple times. Rifki and I went a couple times to Rosh Hashanah in Queens, I guess it was, and he tells us that he has to change his clothes after Musa because he sweats. He got so rhinton, he sweats his clothes. It was unbelievable. I mean, just think about that. You know, while we're on this subject, I just want to say on Kabbalahs, because you know, what could women do with Kabbalahs? It's like a little bit hard, especially with the Inyan we're talking about. They can daven with Kavanah, but women always daven with Kavanah, so it's not, you know. But I want to tell you something. One of the people that met Tati and Zadie when he was Nifter was Bobby Schechter. They say, Shpacha comes to greet the person coming into the oil mammoth. Besides your Shraga 5 men love it. Besides your Yaakov you were so close with, but the Mishpacha also comes. One thing while we're making Kabbalahs, Bobby Schechter was known. The Zadie Schechter used to wake up very early in the morning. She always got up in the morning to make him coffee. She went back to sleep when he left the house, but she got up early in the morning to make coffee. Now, what would be so schlecht for the women to get up when the husbands get up? I mean, it sounds funny, it sounds crazy, but why not for 30 days? It's not a big deal. Now to make a chiluk between the Chaim, I know my time is over and I'm very sorry, but to make a chiluk between the living and the niftarim, I want to tell you something. This is so important that we find and we see there's a certain generation that we don't have anymore. Now, our wives can be, and our nieces and our daughter-in-laws and everybody, they can be the most nicest people in the world. They're the best people in the world. And if you don't say they're the best people in the world, it's not good. And they all are. They really are. But mommy, the chinuch that she got, that mommy got, to be mavato, this is so important. Even though she was choshev, even though she was smart, and she still is smart, and she still is choshev, to be mavato herself to her husband when it came to all in Yonim, not only to have guests all the time, and sometimes it was so hard for mommy, but if that's what Tati wanted, we're going to do it. Not only to do other things that Tati wants. They might have argued a little bit, but the machriya beinehen was always Tati. That chinuch we're missing. That chinuch we don't have. Every Beis Yaakov, doesn't be, you know, the name Beis Yaakov, but every high school, Shmuel Feigelson was always upset at Rebbe's Salvation. What are you teaching these girls the Rambans for? What's David saying? Teach them how to be an Eishes Chayil. Teach them how to be a good husband, how to be a good mother to their children. You know, Malach HaGoyel teach them, but that's what they're going to sing to their kids. They go to sleep. So that's what we're missing today. That this Inyan, as we see from Mami, all of these things that we just spoke about should mamish go straight to Tati's already in Gan Eden. Gemara says that if the person was so loved in this world, there's no shyly go straight to Gan Eden. But even in Gan Eden, you could always send peklach, always send packages. And Mirshem, we all should be making kabbalas for Zadie and for Tati. And it should be, his neshama should go la'ela, mamish, as high as possible. Shkad.
Shus Morichami, Kolako, Hakodesh Hazeh, to stand there and attempt to try to be Master Zadie and who he was I think would be a little bit foolish of me. However, there were things which I was zeicha, and many of us were zeicha to see. My time slot was, I think we made a cheshbon today from 2005 to 2015. Things that I saw which looked wow. But just to say it over, the mices, what does Zaydi's Avodas Hashem have to do with myself, with us? For two reasons. He was much greater than us. And as Rashi always says, what we saw by Zaydi is not Yotzi Midei Pshuta. It was something much deeper behind all of Zaydi's Avodas Hashem. However, if we would try to go back and dig a little bit deeper and try to understand what lies behind and what we saw by Zaydi and how he got there, maybe ulai efshe, that would have a shaykhus, we would have some sort of tiyalus and something which would be tangible, which we can hold on to, and with that we'll be able to keep Zaydi's meisim alive. Will be a tremendous ilun neshama. I can't say for sure because I don't know, but efshe. Efshe means not just possible, but it means likely, it means probable. That this is the case. We saw the taitzah of Zaydi's Avodas Hashem, of Zaydi's whole being. We saw his regesh. I saw his regesh, his ava, his simcha, his passion. In all of his meisim, big or small, anything and everything, every moment, all of these. Zaydi lived a life. He loved life. What type of life? The chaim of b'chol hachayim yeduchasel. A life of always praising the Rebbeinu Shalom. A blat gemara, nochanigen. Let's start over shas nochamo. We're holding by what daf was Zaydi holding by? He got up to daf zayin ches. We're not going weiter when he was 92 years old. Halvaya from Zal gesagt. And he's starting over again from daf beis. Again from daf beis. What was the secret? How did he become that? I think it's very simple. I think that is one word. Zaydi was pashat connected. He was plugged in to Amunah Pshuta. He was plugged into the Kutsha Brichu. He understood that Taryag mitzvahs weren't 248 dues or avoiders or mitzvahs, 365 loisases. There were 613 opportunities and ways to connect to Kutsha Brichu. And if a person has that understanding that it's a connection to the Rebbeinu Shalom, then life is, it's a delight. Of course, he had a passion for life. He had a passion for every moment of his life to do and to Mekayim the Ratzon Hashem. He was simply connected. He understood. He had that Amunah Pshuta. He understood the Ashreinu Matayv Chalkeinu. He understood Ivdu as Hashem B'Simcha, as Dovi HaMelech says, but Du'u Ki Hashem Hu Alikim Hu Asanu V'Le'anachnu. Every second of life is a matana from the Rebbeinu Shalom. So of course, that's why it came. Everything that he did came out with such regesh, so much passion, so much avo. The Navi gave Musa to Klal Yisrael, B'shas Churban Habayis, and he told Klal Yisrael. I didn't get a chance to look up the exact wording of the pasuk, but I think it goes. And the Navi said, "Befivu b'svasai kabduni." Klal Yisrael was being mechaber the Rebbeinu Shalom. Befivu b'svasai. With the mouths, with the lips. But v'libi rochak mimeni, their heart was far, it was very distant. It was just coming, it was just a matter of way of speech, but it wasn't with the hearts. But Zaydi, on the other hand, we see he lived his life. It was v'halu hashimcha be'emes, as the Mefarshim say, it was b'chol libois, with his whole entire hearts. It was his whole life. Dovi HaMelech is Messiah Sefer Tehillim. After the whole Tehillim, he writes a shira about Mizmor David, Bevarchem Yipnei Abishalom B'noi. He's running away from his own son, Le'aleinu, who wanted to kill him. And he writes a Mizmor David. It was a Mizmor. It was a Mizmor David. After the whole entire Tehillim, he ends up with the pasuk of Kol HaNeshama Tahalal Kol Halaluka. And the Medrash says, what that means is Al Kol Neshima Neshima Tahalal Kol. Every breath that a person takes, It's not enough to say to him, you have to say, thank you, Hashem, thank you, Hashem, thank you, Hashem. But we can't say thank you, Hashem, every minute of our life, because then we wouldn't be able to get anything else done. We have to learn, we have to daven, we have to eat. So what does that mean? How do you say thank you, Hashem, every second? If you live your life like an emes ha'eved Hashem every second of the day, whether it's eating matzah, whether it's shaking lulav and esrog, and you're doing the Ratzon Hashem with the leiv, with the hearts, then that is I'll call Neshima Neshima to Halakha. I never saw Zaidi, and I only spent, again, over those years, some time, because Zaidi came over to the house, Zaidi and Bobby, Baruchim. I never saw Zaidi stressing about anything. I never saw him anxious about anything. You meet a person, you see it happens. We're all normal, it happens. I never saw him, I'm talking about that to Kufa, I never saw him stressing over anything. He taught me a new taich. Zeh hayoim, also Hashem nagila v'nish l'chaboy. Zeh hayoim means this very day, this very moment that we're living in right now, is a matana from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Nagila v'nish l'chaboy, enjoy it. As the English saying goes, the famous English saying, was that yesterday is the history, tomorrow's a mystery, and today is a gift from the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's why today is called a present. It's a present from the Rebbeinu Shalom. He lived with this Amunah Pshuta. And just as a riot that I'm right, I found the Chaznish in Amunah B'toch in Perek Aleph Ois Tes. He says that Amon Kasher Zocha Seichel Adam Luris Amitis Mitziusa Yisborach. When a person is zoicha to see the amitis, the truthfulness of them and the existence of the Rebbeinu Shalom, miyad nichnos boy simcha gil ein kates. There's a certain simcha which overtakes a person, and as I'm not going to go through the whole entire piece, but he says everything in life has no purpose other than connecting to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and he fears this, and he says this is it's ki'ef shelo adam ba'olam hazeh liyos kemalach l'rogon. It's possible for a human being on planet Earth to have that feeling and be like a malach at those moments. Zaidi Simcha was a Simcha of Gil Ein Kates. It has to be that this was his Mila, where he came from. He understood and he chab the amitis of the Metzias of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Just to be Messiah. The Tshuvas HaGa'onim, Shari Tshuva. And the Tshuvas HaGa'onim brings down that when Rav was nifter, it brings down, it says he has 10 mulsa de chassidusa, 10 things of that he was noyik chassidus. And his talmidim, his chaverim, wanted that those milas, those mulsa de chassidusa should live on. So it wasn't shaykh. Some people tried accepting all of it, didn't work out. And it's brought down that all different things, he goes through all 10. Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Huna, Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yosef, and Absheshis, they all took upon themselves certain things. And a little bit more than that, the Yaris Dvash, Rabbi brings down, and he says, B'shas mises at tzaddik, when somebody leaves this world, there's a void. There's a void. There's a void in the world, and a person has to be misdabik, b'toyra, v'losha, b'tshuva, b'mois tzaddik, Talmud Chacham, v'ha'ish ha-tzaddik ha-yamalbish, u'ma'utter b'mides rabbis. He's clothed and he's enwrapped in mides rabbis, u'ma'moisai, Kol Ma'asav, all his actions, the Kinyonei Shleimus, Shahayuloi, all the madregas which he amassed over throughout his life, Mufkarim, the Hefker. The whole Ish Yisrael Yochol Liskois Lahem. Every Yid in Klal Yisrael is able to be Zeich in them. The boy said, we have a rare opportunity, we have a moment here together, B'nai Mishpacha, Chaverim, Yedidim, those who knew Zaidi. We have an opportunity to come and to continue and live with those milas of that Zaidi had. There's a void in the world. There's a void of a 92-year-old man making sure that he's not late to Shacharis, that he's not late, like Uncle Danny just said, that he's not late to Shacharis. There's a certain void that's missing. And if we, myself, if we could still take something from all those milas which we saw from Zaidi, that would be a tremendous ilun neshama. Yitzias tzaddik min ha'ir ois a roisham. When Zaidi left the world as a roish, he left the roisham. The physical, Pona Hadara, Pona Ziva, but he left behind a legacy. I think if Zaidi would be sitting here right now, Zaidi and Bobby would chuckle together, they would say, we're millionaires. Look at the Einachos. Zaidi used to always say, we're millionaires. Look at the nachas we have from our children and our grandchildren. We're millionaires. They left over a beautiful, beautiful mishpacha. I was zeicha to come into to this mishpacha and to know Zaidi. Yehei Zichrei Baruch.
All the hush of the gathering. Thank you so much, Tati, for arranging this. I didn't have an opportunity to be Menachem Avel in person. Certainly not participate in any of the Spadim at the Levaya or at the Shiva. So this is certainly an amazing opportunity. Thank you. Oh, sorry. There we go. The mic. Yes, so certainly feel quite unworthy to speak before this gathering and unqualified to bring out even a small idea of the greatness of Zaidi. But I'll try my best to bring out my memories and how I was impacted by Zaidi. Meir got to spend last Shabbos with Meir Kravitz, and he mentioned that Chanukah is a yontif which was kavum lohedes ulahala. He actually he said that Zaidi's life was the life of lohedes ulahala. And I think that really sums it up. Zaidi used every opportunity to bring out the praise and greatness of Hashem. Zaidi always showed extreme gratitude for the good that he was given. Yitzchok just mentioned, the millionaire, the children and grandchildren that Zaidi took such pride in. And really the extended family and almost everyone that was close or near Zaidi. He showed extreme gratitude for the good that he was given, and he so graciously accepted any difficulty, finding and seeing Hashem and everything. And we all know, how much Zaidi appreciated the good, but also the difficulty. All through, starting from before I can remember, but certainly I was present when Uncle Yitz was so ill and then ultimately passed away. What a big pain and Zaidi took such pride and Babi such pride in Uncle Yitz but still how his and we heard about all the letters that Zaidi had been sending all those years and also I heard and was able to experience the pain, but then at the same time the acceptance and the recognition that this is the Ritzayin Hashem and to be able to continue. Zaidi didn't become a broken person in any way. Zaidi was he continued to live life with the same joy and happiness, and was able to impart that in us and in everyone around him. Of course, with Zaidi and Babi living so far, the opportunities to spend time in person were so limited. But there were so many years that for Yom Tovim and Simchas that Babi and Zaidi were still coming. Those Yom Tovim, those Simchas were so enhanced with spending time with Zaidi and Babi at the table, or just sitting in a room with Zaidi and with Babi, Zaidi singing at the table, or talking and learning, just spending the time with everyone and being such a warm part of our lives. And so many of those chasanas that Zaidi was at, that he sang at the chuppah or even at the Suda. I think at my chasana, Zaidi sang during the meal, and it was such a special experience that my grandfather got up and sang it. We didn't have to. There was also a professional singer, but who needs that? Zaidi had such an expression of joy, for everything related to Hashem, the Torah, Eretz Yisrael, and that was the expression of joy that Zaidi was in Eretz Yisrael. That when we were there with him, how happy he was that we were there and that we were able to experience that. We saw that in his tefillah and the shira, the davening that Zaidi would put down, whether it was at the Amud or later we weren't able to hear Zaidi daven for them, but just watching Zaidi daven, watching Zaidi sing, how much feeling he had for, for whatever it was that was about. Of course, one of Zaidi's most famous songs, I think, is, Eicha. Everyone talks about that. And, the pride that I would feel when, I would be in yeshiva or in just the shul, and that was the song that was chosen. That's my Zaidi song. And it felt so good. I was once in yeshiva and we were having, I think it was a Hanukkah mesiva. And I was sitting next to the Rosh Yeshiva, and of course, one of the songs was Eicha, it was Hanukkah, so, Hallel. And so he pointed out that he remembered how Zaidi sang the song, and he corrected everyone. He was like, there's a certain, knach, I forget. I know what it is, actually, but it's not important right now. Whoever wants can come over afterwards. And so much so that he said over, that Rav Bluff said at the Shiva, that for this song alone, Zaidi is guaranteed a place in Gan Eden, and everyone spoke here. Yaakov said he's guaranteed anyways. Somebody who was Alabrias, who loved people so much, so that was something really a special experience. And I think in general, besides for the appreciation that Zaidi showed for Hashem, he excelled in general in this midah, to appreciate everything that was done for him. I had the amazing opportunity just a year ago this winter, I got to spend a few days with Bubby and Zaidi. I'll forever cherish that time, and hope to be able to get to see Bubby soon again. But so he would express so many times, thank Shana for letting you come, and he would also talk so much about the Tati would go frequently during the year, and he would also say, Mommy is such a tzaddikas that she lets Tati go, and it's true, but just expressing that, like I heard about that, so Zaidi would express that to me, and to them. So Zaidi had such a joy and appreciation for life. I think he understood that Hashem gave us this world to enjoy. He would talk about, I'm sure many of us have heard the best coffee in Yerushalayim, and it would bring him so much joy that we would come, drink that coffee with him. I was there once, and I think I maybe refused to drink, and he was like, "How could you not? This is the best coffee." And he would talk about, Bubby's amazing cooking and Mommy's amazing cooking, and this is something I heard about, as recently as last year. So I don't think he tasted Mommy's cooking in probably 5, 6, 7 years, but he would still talk about it till the end. So, and I think that this appreciation and joy for life made Zaidi just the right person, to give those, and there was this video going around where we were able to see a shir that Zaidi gave in Shechter. It made him just the right person to give a shir like that to people who are just being introduced to Yiddishkeit, who practically knew nothing. And so many people, I think, actually became Balei Tshuva after experiencing, that experience, whether it was, the shir, maybe more the Shabbos and the Shabbosim that they spent with Bubby and Zaidi. Something more, and this, I think Uncle Danny may have touched on, but the respect that Bubby and Zaidi, respect and affection that they displayed for each other. After all those years, just not hearing a harsh word or a shortness or anything like that, at least that I remember, was certainly something that, I'd like to learn from. Bubby actually told Shana during Shiva that it was something that they worked on. It wasn't just natural. And that's maybe what Uncle Danny meant, but I'm not sure if Bubby meant both or her, but that the midah of Vatranas was something that I think that they worked on. So I think it's a special nechama that Zaidi left children that so closely, present with these midas of, avas Hashem and avas abriyos, and a geschmack for life, for the Torah, for davening. And I hope that we should all be zeicha to continue in Zaidi's ways.
Shus, everybody gathered here. I think as being the youngest speaker, I don't really have to even explain how I don't qualify to be Masper Zaydi. But just the thoughts of what we felt, what I felt, and what other people trying to just bring out certain feelings that we saw about Zaydi, certain milas that we took and that we feel, we hope we can take along, as Uncle Danny said, the Shik Pekelach. I think everybody likes to pick things they're better at to shik their pekel with. So maybe I'll stick to mine. Hanukkah was just finished. It's very interesting, a quick ha'ara I had. It says in the Medrash that Choshech Zegalos Yovan, Shechshichwei Neim is Shachai Yisod. He told them, Kisvu lechem hakeren ashor, right on the horn of a shor, she'ein lechem chelik be'lekei Yisrael. That you don't have any portion in Lekei Yisrael. The wording was bothering me. What the passion they were trying to tell them was, don't follow Hashem. Live your life as your own way. What does it mean, she'ein lechem chelik? You don't have a portion. What were they trying to imply with the word she'ein lechem chelik? I had a thought that I thought encapsulated Zaydi very well. They said, Yavan, they weren't necessarily B'chal Cholkim, they believed there was a Rebbeinu Shloshim. And from a business standpoint, they felt that it was important to actually, serve him because he's in charge of the world. There was no atheism in those days, but their point was, you have to do what you have to do to help him, but that it should be that you're part of it, that you enjoy it, that you feel that you're part of it. That was something they couldn't understand. And that was what they were telling Klal Yisrael. Not that you're not going to be Oived Hashem, but she'ein lechem chelik, that you don't have a chelik with Hashem, that it's not by you, inside you, it's something you have to do because you have to do it. That was what they were trying to stop from Klal Yisrael. I think Zaydi, that was the way he lived his whole life. His life was chelik b'lekei Yisrael. He was a person who was constantly doing, and what we always saw mainly was always things of Avodas Hashem. But he was somebody that when any part of Avodas Hashem that he was doing, he enjoyed it. He lived it. He lived it to its fullest. A Shabbos by Zaydi wasn't a day. It was a Shabbos. It was a Meir Elam Haba. That's what it was. It was something that he loved and he enjoyed every single minute of it. Davening was a time to savor. It was a time to you talking to Hashem. You're standing there. Somebody once told me about Zaydi's father, Zaydi Bentzion, was named after. He said he remembers when he was davening when he grew up, he was telling me that he davened, every single word of davening by him was a diamond. He said it slowly. Zaydi had that same thing. Every part of davening was a diamond. It was time to be with the Rebbeinu Shloshim, to enjoy it, to live it. He said it's Dvar Torah. You felt the Dvar Torah, you felt the question happening, and you felt the answer, you felt the lesson coming out. It wasn't just something he did. His singing, everything by him was it was in Gantin, it was enjoyment. It wasn't something you never felt by Zaydi. That a davening was a drag, was a nebuch that I have to do it. It was something that he was looking forward to do. Like the Gabbai, Wolfish, I think it was, said by when he was master Zaydi, when he came to the time and he said that he had to go back, Zaydi, and Bobby told Zaydi that, you're going to have the schar anyways, because then it's mitzvah, and Zaydi said, what schar? I want to daven. That was what he was looking for. That he enjoyed it. That was the schar that he wanted. I was thinking as a shtickle more of a Jewish to answer the question, was that you're not going to take anything out of the Rebbeinu Shloshim. It means things happen, and when things happen, people sometimes learn lessons, sometimes people don't learn lessons. I think Shalom Shadron said over a famous Maisa that there was once a group of Israeli soldiers that they were going somewhere, and there was one soldier that was also a snake stood up against him, and he had to stand there. And if you move, the snake will right away wrap around you. I think that was a mice. And he didn't know what to do. And finally he said, Shema Yisrael, and the snake left. And so the person telling over this mice told him that this person he was Chazer b'tshuva, he became fro. So he asked him, what's with you? So he said, it didn't happen to me. I wasn't that person. So there's a lesson that's sent here, and you have to take the lesson, you have to learn it. Zaydi was a person by a shiva in Muncie. Somebody said over that one of the the symbols of Talmud of Shakafayvel was somebody who was constantly learning. Somebody like Danny said over the Meiser, everybody knows it, and gets to Hertzl with one sentence. He took something, and when I heard he said it over when he spoke at my mother's school. He said 63 years he wasn't late to anything. Already, he said something that from one sentence, somebody who takes something happens, he doesn't just let it roll by him, fly by him. He took the lesson from him. You know, the whole Zaydi's love of Eretz Yisrael, the way I understood it, came from that one time that Shakafayvel said Al Nar's Bubble and he couldn't talk. That Abba that he gave him, because it was a Meiser there, and he saw something, he saw a lesson, and he took it and he learned. And even more than that, Mommy was telling me last night, you know, what Zaydi said over at Vatayr, every single time when he said it over, he chazed it again. You felt that he was constantly taking the lesson and repeating it to himself, to learn it again, to take it another step, to go weiter with it. He never was happy with where he was. He was always constantly learning. He was somebody who, whenever he saw something, and every time he said something, and it had to be overflowing, he took to himself, and when he said Uncle Danny's Meiser, was the story of Gemilas Chasadim, he was working on his chesed then the next thing. He was taking every lesson to go ahead. You know, just want to end off that with another point that was brought up. That Zaydi and Dovi, whenever you speak to them, whenever you spoke to them, Zaydi and Dovi, it was always a geschmack. It was always, no matter what was going on, Zaydi, even when he couldn't talk, but it was always, you had a geschmack that you heard when he got you, when he's able to talk, when that day he was so excited, he told you either a vote or quickly just, I'm going to say hello, I'm running to daven. There was always a feeling, whenever I spoke to them, I always walked away refreshed almost from that conversation, just in the conversation of how people have the ability, no matter what comes, come what may, we're going to continue happy with a good look. You know, when Zaydi started walking with a cane, his line was, we used to be a 2-car family, now we're a 2-cane family. Just a way of looking at everything that looks like a sorrow to people, and you're taking it as a thing that's a good thing. It's so much that I feel that I gain. You know, many times when I think about where I come from, I'm overcome with gratitude to Hashem for the fact that I was given such special Zaydas above this. And it always comes to me the simcha of living that Zaydi. That's where I look at myself, the way I know how to have a simcha in a mitzvah. The way you know to go weiter something. It's like Zaydi and Bobby, that's who my sema always were. It's a big akaras atoy that I have to them for that. I hope that we should be able to take, as a mishpach, each person can take the parts that they're able to grab and tack it to shik pekels to Zaydi and to bring Mashiach to Keinu and Meir v'yameinu.
Rishus, my dearest family and friends here in this building and on Zoom, hello. First and foremost, I want to thank my dear Uncle Avrohom for inviting me here to speak today and giving me this special opportunity that I will never ever forget. So thank you. I also want to acknowledge that I am here representing my amazing, incredible mother, my sisters Hubi and Shira, my wife Rifki, Elya, my son Avi, who's here today with us as well, and my daughter Orly. Baruch Hashem, I was given a unique bracha and a zechus to be able to share music with the world. And over the years, I've had a lot of kumzitz opportunities in many different places with many different people. And lately, many of them have been in Boca in the yeshiva, where my son Elya goes. And I always think of Zaydi. And a few months ago, they approached me and asked me if I would lead a kumzitz for the yeshiva, and I of course agreed. And a few weeks later, Zaydi passed. And that whole week, we were all shaken, myself included. And I was standing Shiva, as Tanta Shoshana coined this amazing phrase. I was standing Shiva next to my mother that whole week. And it was hard for me to gather myself to lead a kumsitz and be in that headspace when I was pretty down. But I knew that it was something that Zaidi would be very happy with, knowing that I would go sing to Hashem with some yeshiva boys. And I told my mother Thursday was the kumsitz. That's when it was planned. I wanted to leave the shiva house a little bit early to go and be there for these boys. The boys know Harim Kadonag, and we sang it together, and it was so beautiful. It was really amazing. And before the kumsitz start, I said to all the boys, I said, boys, I want you to know that what we are about to do together, most of the world is not doing right now. Getting together, singing the Achdus, creating powerful moments of chizuk and inspiration. Who's doing that today? Who's doing it in Florida, let alone in Boca? Such a special opportunity we are having right here. And I know my grandfather, who just passed away, is looking down on all of us and having so much nachas to kedusha of what we're about to do. And we dedicated the kumsitz Leila Nishmaso. And it was an amazingly powerful kumsitz. Zaidi was the one who taught me how to love the kumsitz, and more importantly, how to value its power and its impact, and to understand its power and to be able to harness its power, like he always would. It's so uplifting to hear how much of an impact Zaidi had on the world and the people around him through music and through his emotion for music. He really connected to the words that he sang, and he connected to the people that he sang with. He made eye contact with us as he would smile, as he was singing the song. He would control the music in the room like no other, but always with a smile. And I learned another important lesson from Zaidi only after his patira that I want to share. Uncle Avrohom said at the gravesite, incredible thing. What a Yerusha we all have. A Yerusha that we could all share, a Yerusha that is everywhere we go and with us in everything we do. In addition, though, this Yerusha continues to bear fruit for all of us as we're going to continue to learn the lessons that we've learned from Zaidi all these years, and it's going to continue to help us improve our own lives and our own selves. After looking at photos and videos from over the years, I realized how much Zaidi loved his songs. He loved all of them. He loved the gifts that Hashem gave him, and he always used them as much as he could. His gift to compose, his gift to sing, his gift to smile, he always used his gifts. Even if some of the songs are better than others, he loved them all. He would always sing his own songs at kumsitzes together. I myself, I'm nervous to sing my own songs. I always hesitate singing my own songs. My songs aren't worthy of the kumsitz. But Zaidi believed in his songs. And he loved his songs because he knew they came from a higher place. It's an amazing lesson we should learn to utilize everything that Hashem gives us, to think about what Hashem gave us, and to try and use it as much as we can. Taking a look at Zaidi's life this past month and seeing the impact he had on this whole world through his music and his joyful way, it kind of put me on this quest to figure out what's the Nakuda. And it was all talked about tonight. And nothing I'm going to say is new. And it's hagufa why it has to be repeated. Because everyone's saying it. Everyone's saying the same thing about Zaidi. Because it's all the truth. And all the more so, hagufa, that we have to repeat it and engrave it and internalize it in us so that we take it with us forever. And that's what this avod is all about. So all I'm going to say is the same thing that everyone has been saying. But I've been trying to figure out what's this nakuda of Zaidi? How was he so joyful? How is he so peaceful all the time? What gave him this spark? So there's a midah that everyone's been talking about, but I really feel strongly about it more than I ever did. Looking at photos and videos and going through my own memory in my head, it's so clear to me that he mastered the ability to serve Hashem b'hislavus, on fire, like my Rosh Hashiva Zatzal, Rav Asher Zatzal, who was buried next to him, who said, Mitabren, with a fire. The world out there is fire. The only way to beat it is with fire. Zaidi lived with fire. It's quite amazing that I've been actually preparing this speech at the same time as preparing for a speech for Rav Asher's 7th Yahrzeit Zatzal. And what was so unique and so similar about them was their koach of tefillah. I was zocha in Eretz Yisrael to sit next to Rav Asher. Now Zaidi gets to be next to Rav Asher. I sat next to Rav Asher for years, and I davened next to him, and I watched him. And every single Shemona Esrei, it didn't matter when or where, I would even bump into him in Saratskin when he wouldn't know I was looking. He was like off the record. And I would find him davening with this huge smile across his face. Every single Shemona Esrei, like he won the lottery. And Zaidi was exactly the same, with his same fire, with his same passion, with his same energy. Their focus on simcha and their focus on Avas Hashem and appreciating the beauty in Avas Hashem was exemplary. Their ability to view the Torah and assays and los assays in ingredients for success and not restrictions on life. It was amazing to me, changed my life. Zaidi took every mitzvah opportunity and performed it with his slavos. What a madrega. What a pachad. It's hard enough for me to do all the mitzvahs all together. To do them with his slavos, what an example we have. I believe that it's because Zaidi, like it was said already, it's the truth. Zaidi really loved Hashem. He really loved him, like it was real. Zaidi was connected to Hashem. He had a special tzinor to Hashem. And you know what? We could all see it. Some of us were zocha to sit next to Zaidi for davening for years, myself included. So many Shabbosim and Yomim Tovim in Neve Yaakov, living in Neve Yaakov, when my wife and I started our life there. I was able to sit next to Zaidi and witness powerful things happening next to me. I had no idea what was being said. I had no access, but I know something way beyond me was happening. We're also lucky to have been sitting at Zaidi's Shabbos meals, watching his beautiful kiddush. We're also lucky to chill with Zaidi on the pink couch while he would teach us a niggin, or while he would ask us, how's life? He was never afraid to have a deep, meaningful conversation, as we call DMCs in today's generation. He was never afraid to do that. Zaidi's harchavas halev is not measurable. His heart is so wide. How many people did he love? How many relationships did he have that he cherished? It's incredible. I believe that Zaidi's music, this joyful way, this way about him, what was the spark? It was his love. It was his incredible amount of love for Hashem. To the point where his music was mamish halal b'sishbachos. It was just an expression of his avas Hashem. It was the tolda of his avas Hashem. We must emulate Zaidi in the way he loved Hashem. We should love Hashem as much as Zaidi loved Hashem, because ultimately the MS is, when you look around this room and beyond on Zoom, I don't see the participant list because of the angle of the phone, but I know you're there. And I know we have an incredible family in Eretz Yisrael too that's not watching this right now. They'll watch the recorded version, and other people that will watch the recorded version. But look at the family, look around us. Zaidi saw this all on a day-to-day basis, and this is why. Zaidi saw the treasures that Hashem gave him, and he recognized it on a day-to-day basis. And because of all of this, because of everything we see in front of our own eyes, that's why Zaidi loved Hashem so much. As Sruli mentioned in his video, that Zaidi didn't only compose Kol Man David Rahmana, L'Tav Avid, because he liked the words or because he believed in them. He lived them. Zaidi loved Hashem not only for the easy years, the easy things, the enjoyable things. He loved him for the painful things, for the difficult things. My wife shared a beautiful idea that she heard she learned in her shir. All things that happen in life, including tragic things, happen in our life l'tav. They are for our good. They are not for our bad. However, that doesn't mean it isn't painful. Painful things happen, but ultimately they are for our good, and we trust that Hashem is involved in our lives and has everything under control. We believe in Hashgacha Pratis and that Hashem has a plan for all of us. There are things that happen beyond our control, but they are all from our Avinu Shebashamayim, who is orchestrating everything, leading us down our path to our ultimate goal, our fullest potential. Zaidi taught us this. Yom V'Layla. Zaidi loved Hashem in the joyful, happy years, and he loved Hashem in the painful, difficult years. He never stopped loving Hashem. We should be so grateful for everything we have, just like Zaidi did. We should try and carry the torch of tefillah, and for us to intensify our own connection to our own tefillos, just like Zaidi did. We should smile at people more often and spread our joy with the world the way Zaidi did. We should take the time to tell funny, cute stories to the little ones, just like Zaidi did. Zaidi will always be the ultimate legend for the famous Becky the Bumblebee story. The way he connected with the little ones. We should love Hashem with the same depth as Zaidi. We should be always able to see through the Hakaras Hatov lens that Zaidi always wore. We should be able to see ourselves, our health, our spouses, our children, our grandchildren, our parents, our grandparents, our communities, our jobs, everything, and appreciate it every day the way Zaidi did. We should continue to follow in his musical footsteps, his life of song. We should all strive to bring more simcha to the world and to bring more Jewish people closer to Hashem, or to help people that are already connected to Hashem turn up the brightness of their flame, of their neshama, just like Zaidi did for thousands of Jewish people across the world. I actually think it's fair to say that Zaidi was the Zaidi for the whole world. He loved Hashem so much, and he loved Hashem's Torah so much. He naturally loved every Jew so much. We're all children of Hashem so much. It was just all simple aleph beis to him. Uncle Avrohom said something very powerful to me and my mother on the phone right after the Patira, and his message really has given me a lot of strength. I'm very grateful. It's given me a lot of strength this last month and helped me personally. And I couldn't think of a better way to close than to quote him in my own words. Hashem should give us all the courage to move forward, full steam ahead, to go forward not with weakness from our loss, but rather with strength and energy from the treasures that we all inherited. Strength to go forward and to continue to serve Hashem b'hislavos, just like Zaidi taught us. Strength to reach the greatness that we are all destined for from the 93 amazing years we had with Zaidi close by. We all know that together with Hashem's help, we will all go forward and succeed. Yehi Zecher Baruch means Neshama have an Elya. Zaidi, I love you and I will miss you forever.
Okay.
I feel like a little bit of an intruder here. Be part of such a special moment. Mishpacha gießen sich aus den Herzen. Pouring out their hearts with emotion. our families go back a very long way. So, my mother Shalom was very close with Mr. Schechter, my friend Leah Schechter, Lakewood, depending on the time. And then, obviously, as we joined families and chutanos, but I still, listening to what's been going on here, I still feel inadequate, to say the least. But the feeling is taka when the Chaim HaKodesh is well known, that it says, when Yosef HaTzadik never came back, so they stood up to be menachem, to give him a nechama, and the Chaim HaKodesh says, it doesn't say what the nechama was, and he says the nechama was that they all stood up in front of Yaakov Avinu. Yisnachem me'atzmai. They all get together, 10 sons, 11 daughters, B'nei, B'noisam, Rabbim, children, Einekla. They stood next to him, but he saw his nechmosei. Kimi sheyesh le kol kach banu v'bonis ein roi loi lehitztayer kol kach. The nechama is nechama to Mr. Schechter, nechama to the whole mishpacha. You see such a mishpacha. You see such a mishpacha. That itself is menachem. The ptira wasn't these parshas of the Avos. And my feeling was the psukkah that it says about the Avos when they were nifter. And Avrohom was nifter. The Yikra v'yomas Avrohom b'seva toiva zokein yusva yomim v'yosef el amav. The Lashon v'yosef el amav. Yitzchok, Amos, Yosef el Amav, Yaakov, Yosef el Amav. I'm not sure the exact title of Yosef el Amav, what it really means. It's a hard concept. But the Pashim Shah, Yosef el Amav, he was gathered together with his people. Think about it, Hertzl, and he was nifter by Yosef el Amav, Pshuta Kimashmoi, because the Avos. They were by Yosef el Amav, they were gathered together because they were the office of the whole nation. And Rabbi Schechter was by Yosef el Amav because his heart was connected to the whole nation. Such a love for Yidden, such an interest in being mechazik Yidden, such an interest in being connected to the Heilig Yidden. Went to the Yashav Shir before it was, popular. I spoke to him, I guess the last time I spoke to him on the phone, so my father's friend Rachel was already, Dovi was already in a coma, and he was saying, we need him, you know how much we need him. That Muslim of Klal Yisrael needs Rosh Hashiva, Gadol, that connection that he had. He didn't mean that the Mishpacha needs him, that's not what he meant. He meant, we need him, Klal Yisrael needs him. Such a connection to Klal Yisrael. And by Yosef el Amav, he's gathered now, el Amav. Zokein, Sva Yomim, everybody knows the way everybody says it. Sva Yomim means Zatatek, the days were full. The days were full. Chaim Veloshner writes, the Nefesh HaChaim, there's a Gemara in Brachas. The Gemara discusses how a Yid should live. Well-known Gemara, well-known Machlekes. Rabbi Shmuel Shita is, the Gemara Brachas Lamed Hey, Rabbi Shmuel Shita is, Layom Sefer HaTorah Hazeh Mipicha. You have to all the time speak and learn you. Yochel Dvarim Kichsava. So could it be? No, Tamlev Asaf to the Ganecha. This Rabbi Shmuel. You have to be noyig minik derech eretz. You have to make a parnasa. Meir says no. If you're going to make a parnasa, you can be charish b'shas charisha, charish b'shas tzira, zerei b'shas riya, teremat Elya. So Rabbi Shimon says, "Bizman she'isol is mitzayne shamakim, other people do your work for you. Eino is mitzayne shamakim, then you're going to have to take care of it yourself." Rabbi Chaim in the middle of this whole discussion, which is the point that I want to bring out, is that when Rabbi Shmuel says that Hanik b'hem minik derech eretz chas v'sholem, that a person should be prayer, should separate himself totally, even a small amount of time from Esek HaTorah. He should be bottled that time from Torah Legamri. When Rabbi Shmuel says Hanik Bohen Minek Derech Eretz, means with the Divrei Torah, means when at times when he's being Isaac, the times when he needs to be Isaac and other things, Isaac and Benasa, Gam, Boisa Eitz V'Ha'es V'Sha'am U'etes, Shat Isaac and Benasa, Kedei HaTorah, Al Kaponim, in your Machshava, Mehar Rak B'Divrei Torah. And I was just thinking, this is Mamash of Hertzl. From the beginning of his life in Torah Das, learning, living and learning in Shurim, and then later, when he was a Rebbe, and then later when he was in business, and then later when he was a Shulach, or when he was teaching classes, Hanik Bahen Minik Derech Eretz. Everything that he was doing was Bahen. There was no time that he wasn't Dovuk in the Rebbeinu Shalom. Everything that he did was Bohen. Once if Rav Dovi was saying, he's stark to Rav Dovi, he said, mit 80 hat es sach schwer, Bishmol sagt sach schwer für mich. Ich habe liegt in the Geschäft, darf sich liegen in line, das ist sach schwer. He didn't, him it was much harder. But Hertzl was a Yid, was Hanik Bohen, whatever he was doing was Bohen, was totally Dovuk in the Rebbeinu. I think it's Pashat. I think everybody realizes this. Pashat, whatever he was doing was Dovuk in the Rebbeinu Shalom. And Mamela, everything came out connected, like everybody's been saying, Chazering, connected. You know, my father used to say over, Zok Maisa in the Schechter, that there was a fire broke out. So what, they didn't have fire brigade, nothing, they had a bucket brigade. They're bringing buckets from the river over, and there's a fire, and they're bringing buckets. And the Shamash goes running up and down. The people says, Yidin, verlost sich nicht auf Nisim, sag Tillim. Don't be so much on Nisim with water, sag Tillim. Don't there's Nashkeit with Nisim. Say Tillim. I think this is your heart. Verlost sich nicht auf Nisim. They make up on us doing what you think, sag Tillim. That picture that by me, I'll always treasure when sitting by in Keller like that, that somebody captured, he should be forever blessed. Whoever took that picture. Verlass dich nicht auf Nisim, sag Tillim. Half of a fella. And when it's such a connection, like everybody's been repeating. So then, I'll say the mind nusach, the way we were mekabelit, where I grew up. I hope nobody minds repetition, that something's beer repeating. By Meir, tells the Yeshiva writes, these are his own words that he wrote. Tovshin Gimel, 1943. Shvat, Tovshin Gimel, 1943. Tosik says that Rochel Meir was nifter, b'shas when she gave birth to Binyamin. She called him Ben Oini. V'aviv korle Binyamin. Sagt der Ramban. V'anochem be'enai. She called him Ben Oini. Rotzelemer Ben Aveli. She was nifter. It's the time of Avelis. Oini, Lechalti b'Oini is the time of Oini. Is a double. V'aviv asa min Oini koichi. Miloshen Reishis Oini. Lochein Koroise Binyamin, Ben HaKoyach, Ben HaChoizek, Ki HaYemin, Boy HaGvura VaHatzlocha. These are the words of the Ramban. Rachel called him Ben Oini at the time of Avelis. And Yaakov was a masker. Aviv also min Oini Koichi, Reishis Oini. So Meir writes, and now is the time of Avelis. of Klal Yisrael. It's Malay Yogoin, Moves Vavadoin, Poiktimus Amenu Kais is a terrible time. Even in the Bechila Ruchnis is a terrible time. Haim Neshiv ala Oretz unekoinin al Amenu. I can't translate this. Haim Neshiv ala Oretz unekoinin al Amenu. Haim Neshiv Shiva v'nis Abel alum Osenu. Loi, b'shum oifen loi. Evel Yochid Asilach. Haim Ranavi. Yechidim, the Bechinas Yechidim, were ba'avelus. There's many people that were lifted. Av the Bechinas Klal Yisrael, there's nothing. It's not a time of shkia chas v'shalom. It's a tzara gedola over. It's aruba. It's preparing l'chaim chadoshim v'or chadosh. So the Dovi niflam oid. The Gemara in Bracha says, Tona Rabbanon, Pam achas gozru malchus shel yirasku b'teiro u'motzil Rabbi Akiva she'imakil kilos b'rabim. Rabbi Akiva was making kilos b'rabim. The whole Ma'aseh and Papas Ben Yehuda said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm mashal with the fox, with the fish. What do you think? We're going to go out onto dry land? For sure, we're going to die." And then they caught him. And then they were masters, sorry, Kishal Barzel, Yotza Nishmasi Be'echad, was Gefelach, Amaisa, Nishnar Bekiva, Given Ashtaf mentioned, Home to have Shitois interventions at the Kufa of Asar Ruge Malchus. How did the Gemara call it? Al Tkufu Neira Zu, Zon Chazal, Pam Achas. Parsha Shoya, so it's a Gemach, it happened, Pam Achas, the whole of Asar Ruge Malchus, Pam Achas, ungegangen weiter. Shenera Gerbekiva Vimer Meyes Valfe Karbonas, Vam Yisrael Mamshich V'chis. V'aviv Karol Binyamin, Ben HaYemin HaKoyach V'Oisher. The Oini, the Tsar, the Yogoin, is a Makoyer for Chaim Chadoshim V'Or Chodosh. This is, I think, the secret of everything that we heard and everything that we saw. That ability to lift up other people, the ability to move on, not just move on, this wasn't moving on. This wasn't moving on. This was building a whole new Or Chodosh. V'aviv asa min oini koichi. V'aviv asa min oini koichi. When the Schechter got up from the Shiva, so believe it or not, I couldn't believe it. But they're saying, Shragi's Niggin, Adheina Azaruna Rachamech. Till today, it's hard for me to sing that Niggin. So I just want to share with you the Goin in Mishlei, what he writes about those words in Nishmas. The Goin writes that there's two ways, there's a famous Goin in Perikal, famous Mishlei. There's two ways a person can be mispallel. And he says the first way is, pardon me that I'm chuckling, Rabbi Shechter told me when I speak I shouldn't chuckle. It distracts people. I can't help it. I'm sorry, Rabbi Hertzl. I'm sorry. Afterwards, he told me, maybe it's okay. The first way is, Dr. Goin, is that the person should ask from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he should do Yaseh Leman Rachamov V'Chasodov. Just do Rachamim and Chasodim. All we're asking the Banishim is Rachamim and Chesed. Azoy b'mezogen, Adheina Azaruna Rachamecha, V'lei Azaruna Chasodecha, V'al Titchenu Hashem Elokeinu L'netzach. Kiloima. Adheina Azarunu, what you helped us until now, Adheina Azarunu, until now you helped us, Hu Rachamecha. You helped us until today is only Rachamecha. V'lo Yazavunu, that which you didn't leave us, Masha Ata Lo Yazavunu, Hu Chasodecha. Everything you did for us until today was Rachamecha and Chasodecha. V'lachem, on a bituchim, Shal Titchenu Hashem Elokeinu L'netzach. Because if everything that you did for us was only Rachamim and Chesed, Kasher U'Leman Chasodecha, we have nothing to be afraid of, Dr. Goin. Ki Chasodecha in Kayamim Talmid. Chasodecha is always here. So the first way to daven is to be davening for Rachamim Chasodecha, then you could be betuchim that the Rebbeinu Shalom will answer us, because the Chesed is always here, Rachamim is always here. The second way was a Groisa Madrega, for Groisa mentioned Yaakov Avinu, that a person is mispalel, sheyas to the Baruch Shem, sheyas b'shlum mitzvaysav, v'chasadah, that I did for schus of my schusim. And my dad Yaakov Avinu said, "Katoitim kol chasadim." He's afraid. But here Yaakov Oid Shem Yigrim Machet. So Gavaldik is going. People think they make deals with the Baruch Shem. If I do this, then you should do this. I don't know. Midaven Avraham b'Chesed. Avada, we should do schusim. Avada, but we're davening just Rachmim Chesed, because if it's Chosim, I'm going to do this, so you should give me that. What about the other things that you did? Maybe I shouldn't give you that. So leave that aside. I'm asking you, Rabban Shalom, for Rachamim and for Chesed, just Rachamim and Chesed. Avochenanu betuchim. But Hertzl was given, Mamish, this is his whole life, Rachamim. Like everybody said, everything was Rachamim, everything was Chesed, and Meir, the Bitachim was Meir of Ayam. The Bitachim was so real. So they say over a Maisa, the Bitachim, people talk Bitachim, yeah, talk. They say over that there was a fellow, you had to make Chasen, and he had Mamish, he needed how many $100,000, and he had 2 cents. He went Erev Shabbos to the Koisel, wasn't yet dressed for Shabbos, and he's pouring out his heart, and he's crying. People are coming already Shabbos day, and he's not leaving, and I'm not leaving the bunch until I see that there's something, eventually he's crying, and he's crying, and there's a Yid that comes, a British man from America, and he sees this Yid crying, and he asks him what's going on. He tells him, his problem is come to me to my hotel, what's the Shabbos, I'll take care of you, Mama Shafel, the fellow, took care of him, he covered the whole chassid, so he didn't know. A few years later, he has to make another chassid, he has no to do, he has no money. He goes back to the Koisel, and he goes on Erev Shabbos, and he's crying, he's looking over his shoulder, where's the Gebir? And he does a bunch of them, he's not leaving weird until he gets there, and he's still standing there, and he's still crying. Because if you need signs, and you need that it should work out for you, and you're looking over your shoulder, making sure that it works out the way I want it to work out, it doesn't. Ish Yehudi, I think that's the feeling that I had. Ish Yehudi. That was our Hertzl. Ish Yehudi. Ayid. We had him, the oldest Bogan, Tzvika Bogan, we made him a Shever Brachas, so the Hertzl came to the Shever Brachas. And we asked him to sing, and he got up and he sang. And it must have been, it was like 21 years ago, it must have had some sort of episode. It was his heart then. And Mr. Schechter was standing by the Mechitza, she's telling Hertzl, calm down, Hertzl, calm down. And he's singing with the ganze guy. She's telling him, Hertzl, calm down. This is by me, my view of the Schechters. Hertzl, the ganze hearts. And Mr. Schechter is taking care of him and supporting him and making sure. I want to finish with this. Everybody's talking about the Negunim. I want to tell you my take. The Negunim have to be sung. They have to continue. It's not because that's Zayd's legacy, that's Schechter's legacy, that's in our family, this is how we do things. We eat the broth, we don't eat the broth. This is our minhag. We sing the Negunim, we make kozitz, and he left over a sefer. He left over every niggin must be learned up. In every niggin everything is there. If you think into them, I don't know all of them, I don't know even some of them. But if you think into the Negunim and you'll sing them, and you'll picture Zaidi, you'll picture Zaidi Schechter, you'll be learning up his whole Metzias. You learn up the Niggin. I don't understand the Negunim so well, but anybody that understands a little bit could hear it. From the famous Oitcha, which was when it's after a time of a big simcha or after a big scare, That's a tremendous haidah to the Rebbeinu Shalom, a tremendous level of haidah. And then you have a kilachatay lahaidas. That's the regular everyday. Every day, it's the same words. Kilachatay lahaidas, oid Hashem l'kai, same words. It's a whole different thing. It's every day kilacha. It's every day thanking the Rebbeinu Shalom, praising the Rebbeinu Shalom for everything. Then there's times of uncertainty, times after Dovi with the whole mice with Basheva, remember Hashem, ki dilisami, slow, ki dilisami, the whole thing, the bunch we lifted me up after, and Chisani took me out of Gehenim, Chisani miyor divar, that Chisani miyor divar, I can't do justice over here, Chisani miyor divar, you picked me up, I'm ready to go further. Yisrael b'tach b'Hashem, my father's brother, every single yom to sing Yisrael b'tach b'Hashem, every single yom, sing Yisrael b'tach Hashem. Yisrael b'tach Hashem, the whole thing, the touch of it, ending up with that a crescendo of Kirvas Elikim. Yirei Hashem b'tach Hashem, Ezra Momadina Mahu Hamashah. And the B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim, but the whole Yitzias Mitzrayim, the whole thing is in the B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim. It's there. I think everybody could. Yishma Chalcha v'Yosef Lekach. But me personally, I'm like I started. I'm a intruder. This is just the things that I just watching simchas together. We were together different times, many times, of course, but can you imagine what you have? Rosh Hashanah without, there's no, he used to come to Chicago. That's cool that he came to Chicago. When I was growing up, he used to come to Chicago with the Agudah Shul for Rosh Hashanah and Kippur and Davin for the Amud, and he would stay by us and he would eat by us the meals. And it was something amazing. The second night of Rosh Hashanah, my father would eat in the yeshiva by us. And he would come with us. And he ate the yeshiva together with us. Why not? He ate the yeshiva together with us. And he sang his Meloich. I wrote it. There's no bacher from my time in the yeshiva then that doesn't sing by his Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah table Meloich Al Kol Elam Kula. Everybody. They sing it. They still sing it today in the yeshiva. My brother just told me last night, we still sing it today in the yeshiva. Das ist doch the ganze Malchus, the whole Rosh Hashanah encapsulated a little bit maybe with the nusach of Tervidas and Shagafai. He once told us this was something that I realized we come a little bit from different chadarim, we come from different places. He said it was once, and I'm sure you heard this from him, it was once in Rosh Hashanah, Shagafai came in, he said we don't feel the Rosh Hashanah, it's feels like the Rosh Hashanah. It feels like the Rosh Hashanah, so what should they do? We have dancing. They began dancing, Rosh Hashanah, they danced, because it wasn't Rosh Hashanah. From that, from that I gained, from the Melech Al Kol Elam Kula. It helps me, it helps everybody. I wouldn't dance the Rosh Hashanah, Mishkichilik, aber Zidat Zwei Chadarim, there's different Mahalchim, aber from them, Verta Ein, Grace, Avodas Hashem. A treasure that we were zeicher to have, and you, the Mishpacha, special, such a treasure, such a special thing. And I think that you were zeicher, Baruch Hashem, to realize that B'chayav, remember, I think every single one of you was zeicher B'chayav to be realizing what a treasure we had, and what a treasure we had. And we thank the Rebbeinu Shalom that we were zeicher to such a treasure. And it's a nechama for him, it's a nechama for Mr. Schechter, the mishpacha that he has. Rashi says over there, a person calls ein adam menea milikra the kalasa bitoy. A person calls his daughter-in-law his daughter. A daughter-in-law is also a daughter. A son-in-law is also a son. We should be zeicher that should be the nechama, and all these, the whole beautiful mishpacha that he was maimed should be for him as cause, and it should be therefore as Chutz, should be Oila, the Shomer should be Oila, and we should all be Zeicha together to be as Mashiach.
Whoever brings down the fire, we're gonna help stack up the chairs, we need to look up and make sure.